This podcast is brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine for those that love to make and drink great beer. To learn more or to subscribe, visit beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew. It's episode 499 of the Craft Beer and Brewing Podcast. I'm Jamie Bogner, and joining me from Nashua, New Hampshire, John Wagner and Danny Sump. John Wagner is the co-founder and co-owner, and Danny Sump is the director of production for Spyglass Brewing. Welcome to the podcast, Danny.
Thank you.
And welcome, John.
Thank you, Jamie.
So in our new lager issue, which is out now, you all sent us a beer for review, your A Huevo Mexican lager, and it was our top scorer, scored a 98 in the issue. And so I figured, hey, now is a great time to have this conversation. And it's funny because it goes back a ways. John, you came to one of our brewers retreats in Austin last decade.
Yes, pre-COVID even. 8 years ago, just before we opened our brewery, our smaller brewery. I went out there and had a great time and came back and I've been head down ever since.
And then you opened up a brewery and, then lots of things happened between then, and we'll cover that history. And here you are now with, I saw you're the second highest rated brewery in New Hampshire on Untapped. You've obviously got this high scoring Mexican lager with us. You guys make all sorts of beer, but you also do really, really well with Hazy IPA. So we're going to talk about Mexican lager. We're going to talk about the many faces of Hazy IPA and the many iterations that takes, because you brew all sorts of Hazy IPA, from flagship Hazy IPA into more saturated and intense iterations. We're going to talk about what that looks like and what that current state of Hazy IPA feels like to you all up there in the kind of center of you are in New England, making New England style IPA. And so that is constantly evolving, and your process is constant and still changing, and everyone is always working to stay at the forefront of that and figuring things out. It's a still dynamic even after all these years. So we're going to talk about what that looks like, how your fermentation and cellaring processes have been adapting and evolving, how you approach hops and all of those things. But we're going to talk about Mexican lager first. Before we dive into today's episode, a quick word for brewers out there staring down a broken chiller. You know the pain. Warm fermenters, stressed yeast, and that sinking feeling when the repair quote lands in your inbox. With refrigerant regulations changing and the cost of obsolete refrigerants skyrocketing, sometimes the fix costs more than the unit's worth. G&D Chillers is there to help, whether you're a small brew pub or large, full-scale production brewery. Don't throw good money at bad equipment. Invest in a solution that grows with your brewery and keeps your tanks cold when it counts. Big thanks to G&D Chillers for supporting this podcast since 2019. Reach out to them at gdchillers.com/podcast to learn how they can support these next years of your brewery's growth. And here's a brewer's nightmare. That's the night before packaging. You walk into the brewery, straight to the tank. You pull a sample to do a forced diacetyl test, and you wait for it in silence. Something feels not quite right. You reach into the water bath and bring the flask to your nose, and it's a butter bomb. The logistics start running through your head. Do we hold the tank? We have accounts waiting. How many days until it clears? And then you wake up and remember that you use Berkeley Yeast's Fresh Chico. It's got ALDC inside every cell, so diacetyl can't even form in the first place. Through dry hopping and hop creep, diacetyl stays ultra low, so you don't have to add ALDC or wait for diacetyl to clean up. And most importantly, you don't have to wake up in a cold sweat worrying about scary stories like these. Fresh Chico is now available in dried bricks for as low as $88 at berkeleyyeast.com. Also, this episode is sponsored by PackTech, delivering craft beer multi-packing you can trust. PackTech's handles are made from 100% recycled plastic and are fully recyclable, helping breweries close the loop and advance the circular economy. With a minimalist design, durable functionality you can rely on, and custom color matching, PackTech helps brands stand out while staying sustainable. Trusted by craft brewers nationwide, they offer a smarter, sustainable way to carry your beer. To learn more, visit packtech-opi.com. That's PAKTECH-OPI.com. All right, John, why don't you give us a little bit of your background? We'll get some of Danny's background, and then we can give me your background and some of the Spyglass origin story.
Yeah. So, well, I was an engineer. It's a typical story, and I have 3 partners. We were all software guys together, and we got tired of making easy money, I guess. So we decided let's open a brewery. But I was a home brewer. And I got one of my partners into home brewing, and we were the type that would drive to Treehouse and stand in line for 4 cans of beer, and that was I'm dating myself there, but and then we decided, we can make pretty good hazy, and there's not, in Nashua, it's a good spot where a lot of people are into that, so we thought let's do it, and it was kind of supposed to be an early retirement gig, and it's anything but a retirement gig, trust me. And so that's how we got started. And we opened a small place in 2018, I guess. And we had, 40 seats, tap room, and a 10-barrel system. And, we rode through COVID, pumping out cans and selling them out the back door in a car line. And then post-COVID, we built out our it's new to me still. I guess we're 4 years here on our 4th year at the Innovative Way facility. And now we have a 300-seat tap room and a 20-barrel system. And that's where we are. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, it's nice to have expanded to that kind of thing. And, and certainly in that area, it's fascinating to see the ambition of breweries that make great beer and just how they can, you've got Treehouse that has a golf course and humongous capacity.
Oh my God.
Which is actually not that far down the road from you all, in Tewksbury.
They opened just before we opened this new facility, and we were like, oh, there's not going to be anything within reach. And then Treehouse opened, we're like, oops. But it doesn't seem to be a problem.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. A little bit of diversity is the spice of life there. So, Danny, tell me about your beer history and your beer arc.
Yeah. So I graduated college with a degree in exercise science, and I started working in physical therapy right after college. I came to the point where I needed to make a decision whether I wanted to go to physical therapy school or do something else. And there was a local brewery in Norfolk, Virginia called O'Connor Brewing Company that was looking for somebody to pack out on their bottling line. And so I took that job for free. Worked 6 months for 0 paycheck, free beer, and ended up getting hired on as nighttime seller. So I ran a plain frame filter, starting at 11 p.m. every night. Cleaned a few tanks, transferred some beer, then got promoted up to a brewer position there. We ended up expanding the facility a little bit more, ended up on a 30-barrel 4-vessel system, brewing a lot of beer. Kind of hit a wall there. We were brewing the same thing every day, but I ended up working at Wicked Weed in Asheville at their brew pub. This was as they were building their production facility. So I was brewing a lot of sour beer there, mostly worked for sour beer, did a little barrel work in the Funkatorium, but mostly this is shift brewer work. Did that for a while, and then got hired on by Green Flash. This is pre-Wicked Weed buyout. Got hired on by Green Flash. Ended up working at their Virginia Beach facility pretty much the entire time it was open. So went into pretty much high capacity, very automated brewing at that point. It was fine. It was a lot different than the manual brewing we had done before, or I had done before. But they ended up closing that facility, laying everybody off, and I kind of had to reassess what I wanted to do in the brewing industry at that point. I ended up finding a brewery in North Adams, Massachusetts called Bright Ideas Brewing. They were a small brewery, 7-barrel brew house. I was just myself and another assistant brewer there. That's where I started to get full creative control and started to really define kind of how my brewing style was going to be. I ended up working there for 6 years as their head brewer. I ended up director of brewing operations. We ended up opening a production facility in Westfield, Massachusetts. So I got to do the build out and get those beers going. And then I got the opportunity with Spyglass, and I took it. And I've been at Spyglass now 2.5 years. So.
Nice. So, John, tell me about Spyglass. You guys wanted to start a retirement, kind of fun project, which I imagine has become even more intense than your first career ever was in terms of pressure and stress, and yet so much less financially rewarding.
Yeah.
We make choices in our lives, and sometimes you just want to do what you want to do. But, so what your thoughts then when you guys got together to start the brewery was, we go and buy this beer and we think we can make great versions of this, but then you open up a 300 seat place, and now the calculation is like, we need to make lots of different kinds of beers that lots of different kinds of people drink. And I should also state that those other large breweries, whether it's Trillium, Treehouse, and some of these kinds of leaders in New England, they all do the same. I mean, last time I was at that Treehouse golf course, I had a Grodziska, and then they're making historical lager styles. It was way too high in ABV. It was a 5% beer. It was far too full. They did not do a great job at the Grodziska, but I might be a very fine-tuned critic of that particular style. That's neither here nor there. But anyway, this idea, there's not a monoculture, a beer monoculture in New England just because it's well known for Hazy IPA. Everyone, makes and enjoys lots of different styles of beer. So what was your goal then with Spyglass, and how has that evolved now into what it is?
Yeah, that's true. So when we started Spyglass, our goal was, we really liked Hazy IPAs. And so when we opened, that's what we brewed. We also opening day, we had a Irish Stout and a Saison and a couple of IPAs and something else. And so, we fully intended to be a well-rounded brewery, but people really enjoyed the IPA. And so you, of course, end up having to brew that again and again because they keep drinking. So we had 4 fermenters. So we were pretty limited in the variety we could have. So yeah, I don't know that we thought through what was our goal. But certainly we did some thinking ahead of time, though. Before we opened, we were going to open with a 7-barrel system. And we had, of course, being engineers, all kinds of numbers and spreadsheets. And the day we were going to pull the trigger on the system, we calculated, wait a minute, what if we had a 10-barrel system? And boy, the difference in profit is huge with almost no cost difference. It was minimal. So we were really lucky we thought that and did that, because then when we hit COVID, those bigger tanks were really helpful. When we brought the mobile canner in, we could hit the minimums easy. They'd come every week. We just got lucky there. I keep saying that every year. There is something to this idea, and I keep coming back to it. In fact, I was just this past weekend down at Keeping Together in Santa Fe, and was talking with Avery and Pat down there, and they've built a little over 300 capacity tap room for that brewery, and it's a very ambitious project. There is something to going in with a concept that is bold and ambitious, but also a place that people want to go to, is probably a better predictor of success than simply managing your risk. I think sometimes you overly manage your risk and try to, keep your exposure low. You actually don't go and create the kind of place that that draws people in. And so thinking about it in those terms, doing the thing and committing to it actually can actually be a bigger predictor of ultimate success. Yeah, it's painful when I see people, open with really small systems. I'm like, man, you're going to beat yourself to death making beer. They just can't make a profit that way, and it's like, I know it's hard, when you got to take a loan but sometimes if you got to do the calculation for just a little more money, can I double my potential profit, right? That was what it was like when we looked at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having it, hitting a certain number for it to be an actual business, and drive enough revenue for it to be a real thing. And,
yeah. Can I make a living? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And also having a big tap room is like, now we have a big one. And man, that was a really good thing because people, A, they just like going to places that are big, I think, for some reason. But B, you can
always find a table. You can always find a seat.
Exactly. Yeah, we were full most of the time in the old place. But also, they can bring up, hey, we have a 50th birthday with 55 people. Can we have a space? Like, yeah, we can do that now. There's not a lot of places that in town that people can do that. So that's, there's my business advice. Go bigger.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And like we saw it in Meanwhile in Texas, they built this brand new brewery and they spent quite a bit of money, building this. But, you go there on a weekend and, it takes 5 food trucks to feed all the people that are out there in that beer garden.
Yeah.
And you can easily see 1,000 people outside in this, gigantic beer garden. And so there is some case of like, build it, may have a great product, but have a great experience. And, building it with that kind of intention can help create a thing that, can actually, be the level of business that you want it to be. So interesting stuff. So Hazy IPA was, and you guys went in on it. I want to talk about, let's talk about Mexican lager before we talk about Hazy IPA, right, just to make those, those IPA folks keep listening. So before we do that, Oregon Hop Country is heaven to world-class lager varieties, and Indie Hops is proud to have introduced Oregon's newest lager hop, Lorien, in 2022. Lorien is in a growing list of beers that have found their way to the podium, and more importantly, into the hearts of lager lovers across the country. Discover Indie Hops Lorien. Side effects may include rampant festivity, sales bumps, and exceeded expectations. Indie Hops, life is short. Let's make it flavorful. And if you're like many podcast listeners, you've got a lot of beers at home and your regular fridge is at capacity, enter the Midea 50/50 Flex, the industry's first dual-compartment 3-way convertible freezer. Here's what all that means for you. Options: the 50/50 has the power to be all freezer, all fridge, or a little bit of both, but you'll probably want to use those 20 cubic feet as a massive garage-ready beer fridge. You can also change which side the door is on or how you want the shelves to be arranged. The 50/50 totally flexes to fit your life, plus it's designed to maintain a stable temperature even in non-climate controlled conditions, so you can crack a cold one even on the warmest days in the man cave. Take your garage to the next level. Check out midea.com/US to get more info about this game changer today. So you guys are a Hazy IPA brewer, and yet you send us a Mexican lager for the lager issue, which, hey, I appreciate. You got to prove that, you can do more than one thing. Danny, tell me about the kind of creative process behind this Mexican lager. Obviously, people come to the brewery who are not uber beer fans, and the first thing they're going to ask for is, do you have something like Budweiser? Do you have something like Coors Light? And so, you have a Mexican lager, like that's something people know is easy and accessible. And that's, I think, one of those reasons why craft brewers have embraced it.
Yeah. So this was a Cinco de Mayo release. I really just wanted something incredibly drinkable. And that was the number one goal of this beer, was make something light, make something balanced, make it as clean as I can get it, and make it so that people could drink 50 of them. That's what at least in the United States, that's what Mexican lagers. I know the Mexican brewers have much more nuanced views on it, but for me, I still wanted to make a really great beer. So yeah, it was mostly just looking at, this was our first batch of All Huevo. We had never brewed it before. For me, I was looking at, okay, 6-row, because we need corn. Corn is like the number one thing, number one malt, or I should say grain, that we put into Mexican lagers. So 6-row because of the amylase to help that conversion of the flake corn. I did look into getting local corn. Unfortunately, in early March, it is not corn season in New Hampshire or New England. There's still snowing. So I was not able, unfortunately, because of season, to acquire local corn, though there are a few farms in New Hampshire that I now have contact with, for summer beers of corn. But yeah, for this, I did have to go with flaked corn from BSG, but we did raw 6-row and just a little bit of chit malt, just for head retention. And then for hopping,
chit malt, such a New England hazy IPA brewer trick there. And
we order it by the pallet. I could talk about that later, but yes.
That makes sense though, because I know when I wrote my review, like that beer felt like it had a fullness to it despite the lightness. And I think that now that you're mentioning chit malt, it does make some sense there. Yeah, and I agree. But that head retention was fantastic, and it just but it almost felt to me, and I think I wrote, felt like a lager that actually had some citrus notes, some of that lime, but it also felt like you'd already put some salt in there to kind of that old Midwest lager trick of dropping that little salt in to make that beer give that beer a little more feeling of body. And so chit malt tracks, that's cool. How much like chit malt in general in this?
There is 9% chit malt. So.
9%. Okay.
Yeah, very exact. And it's funny.
And 6 row. I mean, a lot of people aren't using a lot of 6 row these days.
I think this is the first time we've ever used it. And like I said, I was kind of thinking about the corn and, just the amylase that the 6 row brings into it, so that get a little bit of conversion from the corn. So that was the big reasoning on that. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned salt. We have very soft water profile here. Chlorides are pretty high naturally here. I may have, in fact, I did. I know I did. I did add a good amount of calcium chloride to soften even more. Little bit out of the playbook for Mexican lager, but the way I like lagers to feel a little more soft, and there's other ways to get sharpness, mostly with fermentation stuff. But I like to keep the water profile still a little bit soft with our lagers, and I think it played really nicely with El Huevo in this case. But yeah, we hopped to Saaz. I thought the floral.
Let's go back and let's talk about mashing before we get into the hot side stuff. Now obviously you're using flake corn, so if you're reaching out to local corn producers now, that means you're thinking about cereal mashing in the future. Even though you obviously didn't have to do that with this one, but your goal is to try to get, a pretty dry and fully attenuated beer because it's Mexican lager. Talk to me about that kind of, that mash process.
It's as simple as it gets. Single infusion mash. We cannot decoct on our system. We've done kind of the pseudo decoction where you send over a portion of your work to your kettle, boil it, send it back over to our mash. We actually did that with the guys. We did a collab with Wanderback Brewing out of New Jersey. Really great lager brewery out there. So Brian came here and we kind of messed around with that with a Marzen. Pretty decent results on that. But with this Mexican lager, I wasn't looking for that kind of complexity with the malt. I'm mostly just looking for a very clean malt profile with that. So pretty simple single infusion mash. I think we mashed at 150 to keep it pretty dry. But yeah, just mash salts as normal. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward mash process on this. So,
and the 6 row performs just as you would expect it with a 2 row.
We actually it's funny, we actually had better efficiency on this than we've had a lot with a lot of our 2 row beers. It was a little bit unexpected, but it could have been just the way we milled it. Who knows? I mean, we didn't really make mill adjustment. I didn't think it was worth adjusting our mill, doing a sieve test and adjusting our mill just for one beer like that. It was at the time we're like, oh, it's probably gonna be a one-off. So it's like, we get what we get and we'll figure it out from there. And now I have to match it. So definitely brewing again. So
see, if you're successful with it, now you got to make it again. But so I suspect it sold well also for you. And if it came out of that Cinco de Mayo time, then of course it did. Well, let's talk about then this hot side process. You then you mentioned you hop this with Saaz.
Yeah, so we have 3 hop editions. We did a 60-minute, a 15, and a Whirlpool. Actually, quite a bit more hops than I think most people would expect. I mean, we did full 22 pounds in a 20-barrel batch, just layered. Only came out to about 15 IBUs, but we do have a second kettles. We have 2 kettles. The second one we use as a knockdown tank, so we actually did cool it and Whirlpool hop in there. But yeah, just a long boil.
You Whirlpooled some Saaz in there.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean it has short contact time. It's we we send it over to the knockdown tank. About halfway through the knockdown, we'll add the hops, and then we only do like a 5-minute whirlpool, and then send it out, let it rest, and then send it out to knock it out to the tank. So, yeah, it's a pretty quick contact time overall. But yeah, we whirlpooled some Saaz in there. I thought that helped with the balance. So.
Yeah, of that kind of hop load, how much, what percentage is like earlier in the boil versus your mid boil versus your whirlpool?
It was 6 pounds at 60 minutes, 4 pounds at 15, and then I believe there is 12 pounds left for whirlpool. Yeah.
Well, it's still a pretty hefty whirlpool. With that.
Yeah. No, it's big enough. Our pilsners were usually doing like our Czech style pils. We're doing like 15 to 16 pounds in the whirlpool, so it's not far off from there.
Now since you're using Saaz in this, and it's really easy to use a lot of it and still get very low IBUs just from the nature of it. And I was just looking at the latest Czech Saaz reports from Top Hops, and they're like, yeah, this is going to be an even lower IBU year for Saaz. So it looks like this is going to continue to be the way. For this coming crop year, but is there something also to that like larger volume of green matter in this that that adds something to the beer more than just the hop flavor and those IBUs? Like, I mean, there is some textural component to this.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, I feel like you're getting just a little bit of vegetal, but it doesn't seem that bad for us, honestly. I mean, we do the rub and the sniff on we don't select our Saaz, obviously. I mean, we're just getting what we can get. We don't brew enough with Saaz to really get anything for contract or anything. But yeah, we're doing the rub and sniff, and no, I mean, I felt like these lots that we were getting are really just high in the floral end. I don't think we're getting anything crazy for like any green matter on ours though. So
sure. So you whirlpool this for a real short whirlpool contact time and then get into fermentation. Talk to me about how you fermented this.
Yeah, so we knock out at 53. And then we maintain, we don't diacetyl rest our lagers. We do use ALDC. Actually, I'm thinking we may not have used it in this one. I'm not sure if we used ALDC, and I'm thinking about it. We use it now. I wasn't sure if we used it when we brewed this actually for our lagers. Anyway, we knock it out at 53. We maintained 53. We spun it at a certain point.
Why do you not diacetyl rest?
I found that if you just give it a few extra days, I mean, it takes a little bit longer in the tank, but we do forced derest or detests, and we don't really pick up diacetyl on it. We haven't really had an issue with it. But we found if we just give it a little bit extra time, it'll clean itself up. I'm not a big fan of raising temperature if you don't need to.
So you do a derest, just don't raise the temperature.
Yeah, it's a derest, but not raising the temperature. Yeah, we're not bumping it up any higher than 53. But we do spun it about halfway through fermentation. We get it mostly carved with the spun. But yeah, at that point, it sits until it passes detests. We start.
What yeast are you using for this?
For this one, we used the K Bueno from Imperial Yeast. So we actually use, because we don't brew enough lager that we actually harvest yeast. I mean, the timing never works out. So we were able to use fresh pitch pretty much anything. And this one, I could use something that was very specific to Mexican lager. So yeah, we used the K Bueno from Imperial Yeast. It's really nice. Yeah, so ferments out. Once it passes detest, we drop the temp to 50, and then we do 2 degrees a day until it hits 30. We start dumping yeast usually around 40 degrees, and just dump every day until there's no yeast, and literally it just sits until we transfer over to bright.
How long do you let it condition after it's off yeast?
So for this, for a Huevo, I believe we did 4.5 weeks. A lot of it's just, we have a rough schedule. Like I usually plan out like, okay, I think this is when we're going to transfer and this is when we're going to package. But a lot of times the lagers are just tasting them and seeing where they're at. Big thing is getting it out of the fermenter into a bright as soon as we can, which we have 120 barrel bright. So we have to plan it so nothing else is coming out, and that way we can clear it up in that bright. Anything that's left, we can clear up in that bright, and that's when we really get a good taste on it. But it's usually we've done up to 6 weeks on certain lagers, but for the most part, it's between 4 and 6 weeks for us.
Yeah, well, that extra conditioning time makes some sense with this whole diacetyl program. It's just, ultimately they will clean themselves up, and this is why you can do that if you are willing to give it that time to make sure that it cleans itself up. I'm curious. I think I noted some citrusy notes in it, even though there's obviously no citrus in this beer. I don't know if you all noted that in some of your sensory, but I'm just curious about that. How did you all think about this flavor and what you got from it?
Yeah, so I think the citrus may have been picked up because I did make it a little more acidic. We used lactic acid hot side. Our mash pH was a little lower than when we go in our hazies. I mean, we're only at 5.2. I mean, it's pretty normal range, but we're at 5.2, but our knockout pH was a little bit lower. And that kind of gave it that little bit of acidity, which may have lent itself to citrus. But yeah, most of our sensory, we were getting more of like that floral spicy. I don't know if anybody picked up citrus in it. We did pick up some salinity that was noted in our sensory. But for the most part, it was the malt notes, that light bready, crackery malt note with the balance with that floral spicy hop character. And, just how clean that beer came out was always noted in the last couple of sensories we did on it. So, yeah.
Cool stuff. Anything else to us before we move on to some hazy IPA?
It's pretty simple beer. We're definitely going to brew it next year, though. Definitely, for sure. So,
well, let's transition and talk about some hazy IPA. Before we do, this episode is brought to you by Yeast Laboratories. Some strains define an era. These three refuse to stay in just one. To kick off their 40th anniversary celebration, Yeast is celebrating some of their most iconic strains, highlighting the history and impact that each one has had on craft brewing. These strains each earned their place in this collection the same way, not by trending, but by staying essential decade after decade, from homebrew benches to commercial brew houses. 1056 American Ale, 1318 London Ale 3, and 2124 Bohemian Lager are the quiet backbones behind some of craft beer's most familiar pints. Visit yeastlab.com/most-iconic to learn more about each of these iconic strains. So, John, you guys started on the hazy IPA train, from day one, and then, but I'm curious then, in the Danny era of over the last 2.5 years, you guys have continued to work on these and tweak. It's not as if you found it and you are just, kind of riding it off into the sunset. Hazy IPA for you guys is a process of constant iteration, constant testing, and so it's still a moving target even after all these years.
It is. Yeah, we're never satisfied. We're really critical of everything we make, and we're constantly, I go out and get, comparables from well-known hazy breweries known to be great. And we do blind tasting with the team and see where we're at. And we just sit and say, what do we like about it? Where do we want to go here? I mean, we've definitely in the past couple years since Danny's here gotten it more hazy, and more yeast. We've changed,
more hazy.
Yeah, we've changed malt, we've changed processes. So it is constantly moving, and you'd think 8 years into it would be where we stop, but no.
All right, Danny. So when you came in, and maybe we can talk about kind of a core flagship IPA, the kind of IPA that you make in quantity rather than, because if we get into the more specialized piece, which I would love to talk about what that is later on. Obviously, the answer to that is like, well, we change it every single time because you can on these small ones. So I'm curious, when where were you all with like kind of core flagship hazy IPA when you came in? And over the last 2.5 years, Outline some of the kind of like if there's some like landmarks, some kinds of significant changes that you guys have been implementing to try to get that exactly where you want it to be. And it's not to say that it was wrong before, and I don't mean that at all. I think that it's a moving style category for everyone, and everyone is still figuring out that it can be certain things, and what people want from it continues to evolve. And so it's not putting a value judgment on what it was. It's just, I'm just curious where it was, and what are some of the kinds of levers that you've pulled to, keep moving it forward.
Yeah, so I think we're on version 10.0 since I've been here of State Machine Citra, which is our flagship. I keep track of every iteration, but that's just recipe. That doesn't even include process. But when I came in, State Machine Citra was actually Citra and Columbus, so it had kind of a dank feel to it. And one of the first issues I don't call it an issue, but one of the first things I really identified was that our there's so much variety in what Columbus can give to a beer, and we had some Columbus on contract, but not nearly enough to supply State Machine for the year. So at some point halfway through the year, we had to get spot Columbus, and it was kind of just whatever. Back then, you couldn't really select lots on your spot hops. Now almost everybody's doing, which is great. But so it'd kind of be random what we would get, and between batches, you could definitely tell a difference between the Columbuses in each batch. I thought it was a good opportunity for us to move to strictly Citra at that point, make it a true single hop Citra IPA. As far as the malt goes, we started slowly adding more and more oat malt to it. We use Thomas Fawcett oat malt. We like them a lot. Great protein in them. But yeah, we started adding a little bit more oat malt, and then we started introducing a local malt, Blue Ox Malt House up in Maine. They have a very, very light Pilsner malt. I think it's a 1.2 SRM Pilsner malt. So we started doing kind of a half and half base malt for Blue Ox Pilsner malt, as well as RAR 2-row. But we slowly added a little bit more Citra to it. It's not much different total hop wise than it was when I came in, but we've changed a lot of process stuff and just overall with all of our IPAs since I've been here. Namely, we started counting yeast and underpitching our yeast. That's really helped with the haze, stressing out the yeast ever so slightly. We did change our yeast strain too, actually. I think about it. We went from Omega British 5 to Imperial Juice A38.
I don't know if that's a strain change, but it's a brand.
Yeah, it's a brand change. It's basically the same thing. Yeah, you're right about that. But yeah, we made some bigger adjustments in process. But as far as like recipe and how we approach the beer now, I mean, it's definitely juicier. We select our Citra. We go to Yakima now and select our Citra, which has made a huge difference in my opinion. We're getting top tier Citra that fits what we're looking for, which has been great.
Define that for me. What is top tier Citra that fits what you're looking for? Because honestly, you can put 10 brewers in a room and you'll probably get 7 different selections for their favorite Citra.
I was going to say it's subjective. Top tier in our minds. So I would say it's subjective to us.
But the Citra that you need for Hazy IPA in a New England context might be different than the Citra that brewer in San Diego needs for their bone dry super lean West Coast IPA. So for you, when you're selecting, what are your kind of goalposts?
Yeah, so we're looking for obviously high citrus. We're looking for high tropical in ours. Those are the two main ones. The 2025 batch, all of them had a woodiness to them. We felt like so we actually do have a lot of wood in the one we have. It actually plays out pretty nicely in State Machine. But we're looking for low grassy, low herbal. Low spicy. We don't want anything detracting from the tropical and citrus for the most part. So that's really what we're looking for, is that clean citrus, clean tropical. Not much else in the way. But that's the big thing for us. We don't.
You're okay with a little bit of dank, obviously.
Yeah, a little bit of dank.
You had Columbus in this before. So.
We had Columbus in it before, but yeah, we're okay with a little bit of dank. But for the most part, we're looking for that clean citrus, clean tropical. Flavor aroma coming from the hops. We don't care as much about alpha acids here, mostly because we're not thrown any hops in above 180. I mean, I think we knocked down to 165, and that's the hottest the hops ever see. So.
Oh, well, okay.
I know. Wild.
Before we talk about, are there any other kind of oils that you, kind of flag when you are looking at some of these, looking at some of these hop lots?
We don't get that in depth, unfortunately.
No? Okay. Yeah. Not that nerdy yet. All right. Well, let's talk about, walk through kind of process, starting with this, this mash. And so you're blending some craft Pilsner for ultralight craft Pilsner from Blue Ox with some standard raw 2-row. And then also oat malt, and where are you at in terms of like oat malt percentage these days?
Oh man. All right. So for state machine, we are around 20%.
Oh, okay.
So we're kind of on the higher end, but we've gone higher on other beers. But yeah, we're about 20% of the oat malt. Chit malt, we're at 15%. And then we do use some flaked oats in state machine as well. The percentage is pretty low on those. I think it's below 10, but can't remember the exact percentage, but yeah.
But that's still quite a lot of non-base malt in this. Yeah. By the time you add your oat malt, your chip malt, and your flaked, you're at 40% that's not base malt, pretty easily right there.
Yeah, we have a pretty wild grist bill, honestly, and this is on the safer end for us too, which is kind of strange to say,
which explains our efficiency.
Yeah.
How crazy does it get on the craziest end? Tell me, what is the...
I've gone up to 40% oat malt. So our wildest... Oh, man. All right. So our wildest grain bill we've done, I believe, was 40% Pilsner malt, 40% oat malt, and then 10% wheat, 10% chip malt. And that was the entire grain bill. It was incredibly pale, incredibly hazy. It was too much protein. Our efficiency was garbage in the mash tun. I think we were in the low 70s at that point. But we ended up with it's a pretty nice beer. We ended up pretty nice beer that was, like I said, super hazy. The hops just jumped out of it. So much protein in there for the hop oils to stick to. It really just jumped out of the glass. But yeah,
is that DIPA?
Yeah.
That super pale color that is so hot right now amongst a certain cadre of hazy IPA fans. All right, so you go through this mash process, and you are going to, I imagine, mash this a little bit hotter because you want to hold on to, or I don't know, I shouldn't assume. You tell me what you do from there.
Yeah, so we mash at 152. And it's 152. We go a little bit dry on our mash as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's once again single infusion mash. And then we vorl off for 20 minutes and then start collecting. Nothing crazy. Our pH is high. We're usually around 5.4 for pH. We shoot for 5.35 to 5.45. We usually end at 5.4, but there's a little bit of leeway sometimes. But so it's just a high pH, low liquor to grist ratio, a little bit dry. 152.
What is it about that lower liquor to grist ratio that
we tend to get a little bit better efficiency on it, and that's what we found. So just a little bit better. That's the big difference.
Purely efficiency and no other kinds of impacts.
Yeah. For us at least that we've noticed.
So then you come out of the mash and then get into hot side on this. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so we do a full hour boil, and we do nothing other than yeast nutrient. We do nothing in the boil. So we cool it down to 165 into our second kettle. About 300 gallons in, we'll start adding our Whirlpool hops. So we do anything, we've done up to 33 pounds in the Whirlpool. We try not to go much higher. We use some flowables in the Whirlpool as well. So we're big fans of Dynaboost right now. We get so much aroma from our Dynaboost. I mean, when we're knocking out, it just smells like a hot bomb already. We have used Incognito in the past. the prices have really gone up on that. So we've kind of really stuck to Dynaboost, plus we haven't had a reason to change from it yet. It's not every beer that we use Dynaboost. It's a lot of our kind of what we call triple dry hoppers. But yeah, we
Are there
had sugar as
specific
well.
varieties you find work well in Dynaboost in the Whirlpool, or maybe better than others?
We almost exclusively use Citra, almost exclusively.
Oh.
Yeah, we've done Citra, we've done Mosaic a little bit, but it's almost entirely Citra. And our dry hop is usually where we see a lot of our other hops that are introduced in. So, but yeah, it's a 15. We had sugar at this point too. So we use dextrose. Sometimes in Brewers Crystals, others, depending what we're looking for. So obviously dextrose will dry it out a little bit more. Brewers Crystals have still a little bit of residual sugar that's not going to get fermented. So depending what we're looking for, what beer it is, we'll kind of go between the two of them. But with our brew house efficiency, it's for a double IPA, it's definitely difficult for us to hit our gravities without sugar. So yeah, we usually add a bag or two in the whirlpool there. But yeah, it's a 15-minute whirlpool, 10-minute rest, and then we knock out. But yeah, we knock out 67, oxygenate high. We pitch yeast halfway through our knockout. We also add ALDC, and we've just started adding a little bit of firm cap to our knockouts to try to prevent, but we begin a lot of yeast blow off. So this is kind of, we were kind of pushing CO2 through the racking arm like day 2 of fermentation, but we found that just made a bigger mess. So we've kind of moved on to firm cap.
So you oxygenate high, but you are deliberately, as you mentioned earlier, deliberately underpitching now to also create some stress. So you're helping the yeast, but you're also holding it back in another way and creating this kind of dynamic. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so we yeast cell count everything. For the most part, yeah, we're not super underpitching. I know I've heard of other breweries that really like to stress the yeast out, but from our experience with that little bit of stress, it does retain haze a lot better in the final product. So we do stress it out a little bit, but it's nothing too crazy. So
when you say underpitch, how much are you underpitching on that?
So we're underpitching about, I'm trying to think of the measurement that makes sense the most. So we call in for like 750,000 cells per milliliter per degree Plato. We're doing 700,000. So not that much.
So maybe a 7 or 8%, kind of underpitch. Nothing too crazy. Yeah. Well, makes sense. So, and then, you're using the A38 juice now. Yeah,
we were having some haze retention issues. A lot of some of our beers are coming out clear. We figured it would be, let's just try something different. And we ended up talking to Imperial about, how to treat the yeast and things like that. And we ended up, we haven't had much issues since we moved to them. So,
but we've done a bunch of other things too. So
we've done a bunch of other things.
Omega is a great company.
No, we still get a lot of yeast from Omega too. That is not
sure.
juice. But I think a lot of it was just we were changing the way we were doing things. We thought maybe let's try a different yeast, see what happens, and go from there. And we haven't really looked back. So
what do you ascribe the more haziness to? Because you're not using New Zealand hops in this, which would be the other kind of lever I would expect a brewer to pull to, be more haze positive. If you're just using Citra, now you've got to use, the kind of protein, and you've got to use, fermentation, to make this happen. Talk to me about, how that has evolved in terms of like achieving more haziness in the beer itself. And then what the goal is. The goal can't just be like, oh, it has to be thicker, I'm sure it also has some other flavor implications for you.
So I think protein, for us at least, is the biggest thing for haze stability. So what we're looking for with the haze, part of it's mouthfeel, and the protein really helps with the mouthfeel. And the second thing is it needs to retain that haze throughout its shelf life. We're still determining how long our beer really lasts. I mean, it depends how it's stored most of the time. But yeah, we taste our beer 6 months later and do sensory. We still want it to be as hazy as it was day one. We do notice some haze dropping over time. It's not a lot, but a lot of times it is the yeast more so dropping out. I think it's a combination though, but of yeast still kind of lingering around and then protein, but it's mostly protein that we really want to focus on, giving the positive attributes of the haze and the mouthfeel that we want in our beer. So.
And that just super, super high oat content, you think, is helping create that right kind of protein that is small enough to stay in suspension and not,
Yeah, we found that definitely the more oats, the hazier the beer is. So yeah, it's worked for us.
Cool. Well, so then you go through fermentation with your A38, and talk to me about that. Like, you're adding ALDC, so you're staying away from, some of the challenging, kinds of things that this kind of hop load that can produce. But talk to me about that initial fermentation, period. Because you also, you are putting a lot in hops in here. You don't want to lose all of that aroma to blow off. Obviously, firm cap helps keep more of that in the beer itself rather than it bubbling up and volatilizing off. But talk about some of that process, and then we'll kind of segue into dry hopping.
Yeah, so we ferment at 67. When it hits 10 to 11 Plato, we diacetyl rest, so we bump up to 70. Once it starts to slow down, we do what we call a head swap. So we're hooking up CO2 to our spray ball and then blowing CO2 through the top to make sure it's not going to suck up any oxygen, essentially. So we're basically purging oxygen out of the top of our headspace while it's still bubbling a little bit. So we do a head swap to make sure we don't have any DO hanging, or doesn't create any DO at the end of fermentation. But I know we can't really dry hop, fortunately, before fermentation's over. We do harvest off of state machine pretty much every time we brew it, because it's one of the few single IPAs we brew mostly double IPAs. So we do have to harvest yeast off of it usually. So we are, once we harvest yeast, it's gravity stable. We'll diacetyl test it, and then fast diacetyl test, we'll crash the temp down or cool the temp down to 59, and then it'll be ready for dry hop at that point. So
59.
Yeah, we've experimented a little bit. We've done up to 65, and we found we were getting some diesel-y flavors coming off of the hops, like rocket fuel essentially. So we find to get a cleaner hop flavor at 59. But we do some other things in the process too, a little bit later on, that kind of help with the getting hop contact in the beer. So
that seems extremely cool and somewhat inefficient for hazy IPA brewing.
Yeah. Like I said, we've tested a couple temperatures, and 59 is where we've landed for getting what we want. But yeah, when we dry hop on day 2, we do 10 psi through our racking arm and bubble it for 15 minutes, and then day 3 we are dumping hops out the bottom, and then we're doing another head swap, make sure everything's clear up top, and then we hook up to the bottom and blow CO2 for another 15 minutes from the bottom, and we tend to get pretty good hop contact at that point. And then we'll start every day after that. We just dump, so it's crashed and dumped. So,
and I imagine you're doing this somewhat gently so that you're not pushing too much, hop aroma into that headspace and then out of the tank.
We're literally doing it just enough to get a bubble and nothing more. So our 40 barrel tanks, we're running 10 psi. Anything lower than that, we're not really getting a bubble up top. But yeah, we're not really losing much aroma on that. But yeah, it's a gentle blow. Same with the racking arm; it's a gentle blow, just to get the hops moving. But yeah.
Sure. So then how many, at what point do you take all the hops out of there?
So usually, say day one's dry hop, day two would be racket arm, day three would be crash, and that's where we start dumping. We actually do a hop dump initially, and then we dump every day after that until we transfer over to or rack over to bright. So usually,
And then now,
yeah. So yeah, once it's in the bright, we just transfer it over. We used to use like mesh. I don't know what we call them.
Screen filter?
Yeah, screen filters. Yeah, they're really screen filters.
Filter, but
It's like screens. Yeah, so we used to use screens to stop any hop matter from going over. Now we are sending over a little bit of hop matter with it, and it does settle out in the bottom of the bright over the course of the day. So usually we're transferring it over, we carb it, and then we'll pack it to the next day. So it's pretty quick.
that hop material coming over, and along with any yeast that might still be hanging out there gets credited with that dreaded idea of hop burn. And, and so I know that's something that you all are trying to control for, and that one day of settling is enough to kind of pull that out.
Yeah, it's not a lot. We are pulling from the racking arm. We don't see when we do sensory, one of the things we're looking for is solids in our beer, and we most of the time do not see anything. Every now and then we'll pull a can from like the end of the can, you run out, like, oh man, we probably should have ended this a little bit sooner, but it's rare. We're pretty on top of that. But yeah, we do keep track of it, and yeah, we don't really see much of the hop burn at this point.
No, I mean, it crashes for like 5 days, right? And we're dumping every day. So there's not much left there in the fermenter, the rack.
Yeah, cool. On the more extreme examples, how, do you change that cold side hopping process for, your triple dry hopped, big boys?
Hopping process doesn't change too much. Every now and then we will dry hop right at the end of fermentation. We've done that a few times. We've had some pretty good results. But other than that, it's mostly we start introducing flowables. Our dry hop quantity increases quite a bit. Our grist bill changes slightly too. I mean, that's where we're packing more oats in. We sometimes with those beers we're using just the Pilsner malt from Blue Ox because it's light. It's so light. That's where you get like part of getting the super pale color. But yeah, mostly our dry hop process pretty much stays the same. It's just we just start introducing flowables, some cryo.
In New Zealand hops.
And lots of New Zealand hops, yeah. So we use, other than Citra, looking at our numbers, it's like, okay, after Citra, it's Nelson, then Motueka, then Rakau, and then Galaxy for like our next like 5 most utilized hops in our brewery. So, but yeah, it's a lot of New Zealand hops. But,
well, if haze is your goal, then that's,
exactly.
You might as well use these hops that produce it.
And great flavor,
yeah.
I think like when you use like Rakau and something, it really adds just such a great, second dimension to it.
Yeah. So we layer them pretty nicely. We definitely, a lot of the new flowable hop products have been really cool that they're coming out with New Zealand. So we've been playing around with a lot of those recently. So
like what? And tell me about using them.
We use Hopkeef quite often from Freestyle. We've been playing around with how much to use because you kind of want to be careful sometimes on how much you're using because it can affect head retention and things like that, adding that much oil. But we have I guess you call it a series now because we've done a few of them. But the single IPA version is called Multi-Agent. It's a single IPA. It's usually one hop, and then it's basically like all the forms of that hop that I can get. So like for like Citra, for example, it was like that's like our two. So we had 2 different selected lots of Citra. So we did two lots of Citra. Then we did Incognito. Then we did Hyper Boost. Then we did Cryo, and it was just like all the forms you can get. And we have a double IPA version coming out this week called Agent Swarm, and it's all sorts of every flowable every flowable I could find, but a lot. I mean, it was Citra Dyna Boost and Mosaic Cryo in the Whirlpool, and then the dry hop was Citra, Motueka from Garston Farms out in New Zealand, and then Nectaron Hyper Boost, Rawaka Amplifier Oil, and then Maui Nelson Hop Keef. It's insane. It's the palest, juiciest, most expensive beer we've ever made. So,
Thanks.
yeah, no problem. But yeah, it's coming out later. That's coming out Friday this week. So yeah, that's a wild one. But yeah, we've been playing around with them. We like the aromas, especially, are what we're really liking coming off those beers. Is that they really pop like out of the glass. You stick your face in there and it just hits you, which is amazing. So we're big fans. That and our yields are a little bit better on those, our final yields. So
are there any tricks to, I mean, obviously you've got lots and lots of, protein already in this. Are there any other tricks to like holding on to it? Because you are talking about, these flowable products, getting that intensity to stick around in them, and getting that fully integrated into the beer, for given what you're paying for them, has to be a primary goal.
Yeah, so one of the things we do when we dry hop, we're bubbling the beer as we're dry hopping. Let's again that kind of light bubble. That definitely, it's really to break, for the regular like T90s, it's to break up like that hop lily pad that's on top. But with the flowables too, we noticed if we throw them in, especially near the end, they tend to sit on top. So we've actually been, if we have a dry hop with like 2 flowables and then we have T90s as well, we'll throw the flowables in first while it's bubbling, get the T90s in, and we find if you put them in first, they tend to mix in a little bit better. But for the most part, I mean, I feel like they just mix in really well and they kind of just hang out. So it's worked well for us. So.
Are there some specific hop combos that you found that just sing for you in this kind of triple dry hopped context?
I feel like they're all the ones everybody does. Citra Nelson, Motueka Nelson Citra,
Strat Islands.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I feel like everybody's done every hop combination, and they're all kind of the same as far as, I don't think we have anything different than anybody else. I mean, we have our favorite beers for various reasons. We definitely have like at least I have my favorite hops from favorite hop farms like New Zealand, and sometimes I'll start pairing some of them. Like I think Freestyle does Nelson really well, and the Rawaka is really nice, but I like Garston's Rakow better. So we'll start mixing in some of my favorite hops from certain breweries together, and I feel like those beers always do better. But yeah, I don't know. It's I feel like we're not doing anything crazy on that end as far as hop combination goes.
What do you love about the Rakow from Garston? I'm curious about that one.
It's very cherry forward, but not medicinal. So it just is so bright. It's a different like berry character than I've gotten from other like Rakow from Freestyle or Clayton Rakow or anything like that. So no, I think it's just, I think they grow it in the right place and they pick it at the right time. So that's the only thing they go for them. But yeah, it's a very expressive Rakow. I feel like it's a little more bright than I've had from other lots or other hop farms. So,
and what do you love about the Freestyle Nelson?
It is tropical. It is so tropical. You still get that Sauvignon Blanc character from it. But they have done a really good job about with identifying those lots that are just more tropical and really hitting those and focusing their growth in those areas on their terroir. You want to use that word once today. Yeah. So that was the challenge. That was the challenge. Though. So no, they've done a really good job of identifying where their hops, at least their Nelson specifically, you get that tropical flavor that really separates it.
Yeah. Are there any kind of interesting outlier hazy IPAs that you have made just to, as either as an experiment or just to test a theory, or that, have kind of pushed or expanded the way that you look either at hops or at hazy IPA in general?
So spoke earlier on the beer we did with 40% oat malt. That was definitely pushing. That's Inference Engine. That's a double IPA with Citra, Motueka, and we have Motueka hop keef in it as well. I think about it. We brew too many beers. I'm trying to remember all the hops now we use, but no, that one definitely pushed it a little bit with the oats. Like I said, that it came out. It was really nice saturated beer though. And then the new one we have come out, Agents Form, that's with all the liquid. So much flowable in that. Big Dippers, the other way I think of, we hop dipped. We did a double IPA with Citra and Nelson. Are you familiar with hop dipping? It's where basically you're knocking out hot, like 110 degrees, but you're knocking it into a tank, the fermenter that's already packed with pellets. So you're knocking out, we did 100 gallons and then let it sit for a half hour. And then we knocked out cold to get to our fermentation temp in pitch yeast. And we found that the hop character we get from that is really nice. The aroma is really good. But it's a pain in the ass to do. And it's just something that it's one of those things, oh, this is really cool, but I don't think we can do this very often. So we've tried that before, and that was really cool. That worked out nicely for us. We've brewed it a couple times now. We haven't brewed it in a while, but we can't harvest off that tank either because it's already packed full of hops. But yeah, I think those are the big ones I can think off the top of my head. I don't know if you can think of anything.
I don't know. I feel like all our double IPAs and triple IPAs, at least, are the product of all past, beers that this is crazy. Let's try this. Now we just do it every day.
Yeah. I mean, we're still looking to push some limits. I think we've slowed down a little bit, just because it keeps getting more and more expensive every time we want to do something. At some point, we're just going to price ourselves out of making money if we just keep pushing and pushing. We're there. Okay, there we are. So. Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I definitely, we have some plans. I have some plans that I haven't even told you about yet. I know, but it just costs more money. But yeah, we're going to keep pushing things, and definitely our sensory program has really taken off. Our I call them panelists, but they're definitely getting better and better at sensory. Our descriptors are getting better. We're starting to pick up more on certain things, and that only helps us make better beer because we can then pick up where our flaws are and, okay, where do we need to make this change? Let's do it. I was talking to my brew crew this morning about harvesting yeast slightly differently, and they had a lot of good ideas. So I think that's the next thing we might look at. But yeah.
What kind of changes?
Mostly just how we do it. I mean, right now, we don't have a yeast brink. So we pretty much, with Imperial Juice, you have a very short window, to harvest yeast where our viability is not complete shit. So we are talking about getting a brink, and harvesting on Mondays for the beers we need. And then, just storing that yeast so we don't have to try to rush and do it the morning of every time we try to harvest yeast for our batch. So it's myself and our lead brewer, the only two people that really do yeast cell counts. And one of us is out sick and the other person's brewing. It becomes difficult to get our yeast that morning. So that's one of the reasons. But the other reason is I think we can get healthier yeast by doing it in the brink at the right time in the small window that we have, and then just pitching off of the brink. So yeah, it's simple things. These are things that most breweries already do, but we haven't had too many issues. But now we're thinking, okay, we can just do this better. So
sure. Well, let's zoom out as we finish here. You, John, have been doing this for a number of years. Is now changed from a casual retirement project to something that is far more involved and far more expensive, and also more ambitious than you had initially planned. What are the hopes for you and your partners and everyone for the next few years of Spyglass? Where do you see this going over the next 3 to 5 years?
Really, I think, we're in a good place now. Danny's done a lot of work on consistency. So if we can keep things going consistently and maybe expand production a little bit, we're kind of out of physical space here. So, and we have more tanks than we ever thought we would have. And so, I don't know, we've achieved lots of our goals. And I think basically I'm always looking to raise, the not just the quality, but the maybe you can say it's a quality of the beers. Make it even more, more aroma or more tropical. We're always looking to say, what can we do better? We're not really satisfied to stay where we are, but one of the things we've done here is people think of us as a double IPA brewery, really, and we never intended to be. But since coming to our new place, now we brew lots of other stuff like Mexican lager and nitro stout, and so I'm glad we have a customer base that enjoys the variety now, and now we have brewers that enjoy making it. So I think just to continue working on the quality and work on the consistency.
I think that's always the goal. Yeah, it never ends. So.
And those double IPA drinkers can still get the beers that they crave from their local brewery, and
absolutely.
I imagine you can still get some of those Massachusetts folks to drive a little further up and come see you right there in Nashua too from time to time.
For sure. That's about half our customer base.
Yeah. Well, if you can get them to drive past Treehouse and drive to you guys in Nashua, then that's saying quite a bit, and that is a great place to bring it to a close. G&D Chillers is there to help, whether you're a small brew pub or a large full-scale production brewery. Berkeley Yeast's Fresh Chico is now available dry. PacTex handles are made from 100% recycled plastic and are fully recyclable. Indie Hops Lorient has found its way into the hearts of lager lovers across the country. The Midea 50/50 Flex can convert to all fridge, all freezer, or half and half with just the touch of a button. And join Y Yeast in celebrating some of their most iconic strains. If you've enjoyed this episode, go to beerandbrewing.com, click on that subscribe button, and become a subscriber so that we can send you things like the lager issue with the 98 rated Mexican lager A Huevo from Spyglass right here. And, interesting things. This is going to come out the Friday before our Brewers Retreat, bringing it all full circle. John, the first place I met you in Austin. This one's going to be up in Yakima in Hop Country, and couldn't be more excited about it. Some of you may have also noted that this is episode 499. Meaning next week's episode is going to be that even 500 as some arbitrary milestone that we've just set out in our heads. But I would say that this combination of the Brewers Retreat and an upcoming episode 500 probably has something special in store for us next week. So stay tuned for that. John, if people want to learn more about Spyglass, both in real life, come visit you in the tap room, but also check out your beers out there in the digital space, where can they find you?
Yeah, our website is spyglassbrewing.com, and as far as Instagram, I'm sure if you search on Spyglass Brewing, you'll find us.
It's just Spyglass Brewing.
And then, in Nashua itself?
In Nashua, we're right off the highway off Exit 1 on Spitbrook Road, up the hill behind the big Sheraton Hotel.
It's a 306 Innovative Way.
That's the address.
All right. Well, next time I'm out that way, I'm going to stop by and have some beers with you and see you. I appreciate you joining me for this episode of the podcast. It's been fun to pick your brains about Hazy IPA and Mexican lager and more. Congratulations on that 98. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers. Cheers, King.
This podcast has been brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine, for those who love to make and drink great beer. To learn more or to subscribe, visit beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew.